Weak people talk. Strong people explain. But the ones who are truly feared, they don't do either. There's a moment, quiet, invisible, when people stop seeing you as harmless. Nothing dramatic happens. No speech, no warning. Just a shift. Suddenly, they watch their words around you. They hesitate. They test you less. Most people never reach this moment because it requires something uncomfortable. It requires letting go of approval, of explaining yourself, of proving you're good. Machiavelli understood this better than anyone. Power doesn't come from being liked. It comes from being unpredictable, controlled, and unreadable. And once people can't read you, they don't relax. They fear. Stay with me, because once you see exactly when weakness ends, you'll never move through the world the same way again.
Weakness isn't loud, it's exposed. Most people think weakness looks like fear or panic. It doesn't. It looks like explaining yourself when no one asked. It looks like filling silence. It looks like needing to be understood. The human mind is wired to respect what feels scarce: time, certainty, control. And nothing feels scarcer than someone who doesn't rush to speak. When you talk too much, you give away structure. Your intentions leak. Your boundaries soften. People don't even realize they're reading you. They just do. Silence does the opposite. It removes information. And when information disappears, the brain goes into alert mode. People start guessing, projecting, overthinking. That's not an accident. That's psychology. From childhood, we're trained to explain, to justify, to smooth things over. We learn that being good means being open, clear, agreeable. But the nervous system doesn't reward that. It rewards certainty. And certainty doesn't come from words. It comes from restraint. When someone pauses instead of reacting, the balance shifts. When they don't rush to defend themselves, something feels off. Not threatening, unsettling. That discomfort is where power begins. Because in that moment, the other person starts adjusting. Their tone changes, their posture shifts. They reveal more without realizing it.
Silence forces others to move first, and the one who moves first is already reacting. This is why controlled people feel heavier in a room, not louder, heavier. They don't chase clarity. They let confusion work for them. And here's the part most never understand. Weakness isn't being afraid. Weakness is being predictable. When people know exactly how you'll respond, when you'll explain, when you'll soften, when you'll comply, they stop respecting you. Not consciously, instinctively. Power starts the moment you stop giving yourself away. Not by force, not by aggression, but by learning when not to speak. Most people think strength means being direct, clear, open. They believe if they explain themselves well enough, respect will follow. It doesn't. In reality, the more you explain, the smaller you become. Not morally, psychologically. Have you noticed who over-explains the most? People who fear being misunderstood. People who fear losing control of the situation. Confidence doesn't rush to clarify. It waits. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Clarity is not power. Ambiguity is. When people can't fully read you, they don't relax. They adjust. Think about it. When someone immediately reassures you, explains their intent, softens every edge, you stop taking them seriously. Your body already decided before your mind did. But when someone gives you less than expected, a pause instead of an answer, a look instead of a reaction, your attention locks in. Your brain leans forward. We're taught that silence creates distance, that it pushes people away. Sometimes it does. But power doesn't seek closeness. It creates gravity. Another lie people believe, that being feared requires aggression, harsh words, dominance displays. That's insecurity pretending to be strength. Real authority doesn't announce itself. It lets others feel it. The calmest person in a tense moment silently takes control. Not because they planned it, but because everyone else is leaking emotion. Emotion reveals position. Position reveals weakness. The quiet person gives nothing away, so the room bends around them. This is why unpredictability unsettles people. Not chaos, not violence, uncertainty. When others don't know how you'll respond, they stop pushing, they stop testing, they start respecting boundaries you never stated. Most people never flip this perspective.
They spend their lives trying to be understood, trying to be liked, and they wonder why no one listens. Because respect doesn't come from explanation, it comes from restraint. The moment you stop correcting how others see you, you take the first step out of weakness.
If this feels uncomfortable, good. That means you're seeing something most people avoid. Notice how the rules you were taught are starting to crack. How silence isn't empty anymore. It's loaded. If this perspective is hitting, you're not here by accident. Stay sharp. What comes next is where silence turns into real-world control, and most people never learn this part. Silence isn't passive, it's pressure. Most people misunderstand this. They think silence means hesitation, fear, or a lack of confidence. That's what they've been trained to believe. But in reality, silence is one of the most aggressive psychological positions you can take because it forces the other person to carry the emotional weight of the interaction. When you don't react, people start reacting for you. They look for signals, approval, rejection, anything that tells them where they stand. And when they don't get it, discomfort creeps in. Watch what happens in conversations. The moment you pause instead of responding, the other person fills the space. They talk faster, they explain more than necessary, they soften their tone, they justify things you never questioned. That's not confidence, that's pressure working in real time. Silence removes the emotional handrails people rely on. In arguments, the loudest person usually loses, not immediately, but psychologically. The one who stays calm, who doesn't rush to defend themselves, controls the frame, because silence communicates something powerful without words. I don't need your approval to stay centered. This is why silence feels intimidating. It denies people feedback, and without feedback, they start projecting their own insecurities onto you. They assume you're judging them. They assume you're dominant. They assume they're holding cards they can't see. Most people talk to feel safe. Silence takes that safety away. In negotiations, this is devastating. Say less. Let offers hang in the air. Let explanations run too long. The other side often negotiates against themselves simply because they can't stand the tension of the pause. Silence also exposes intent. People reveal what they want by what they rush to say when you don't interrupt. They show you their priorities, their fears, their weaknesses, all without you asking a single question. This isn't about being cold or manipulative. It's about discipline. The ability to stay silent when your ego wants to speak is rare, and that rarity is exactly why it carries weight. When you control your reactions, you control the direction of the interaction. Silence doesn't need permission. It already has authority. Silence becomes dangerous when it's intentional. Anyone can go quiet out of fear. That's not power, that's retreat. Power shows up when silence is chosen, when you could speak, explain, defend, or impress, and you don't. That restraint changes how people read you. Humans are wired to look for patterns. When someone breaks the expected rhythm of conversation, the brain flags it as important. Silence disrupts predictability, and unpredictability creates attention. Attention creates influence. This is why calm people unsettle emotional ones. When you stay composed while others escalate, you flip the psychological hierarchy. Their urgency highlights your control. Their intensity amplifies your stillness. Without saying a word, you signal that you're operating on a different level. Silence also filters people. Those who are insecure will rush to fill the space. They'll overtalk, overpromise, overshare. They mistake noise for connection. But the ones who are grounded, they slow down. They listen. They adjust. Silence reveals who you're dealing with. This matters in leadership more than anywhere else. Leaders who explain everything lose authority. The more you justify, the more you shrink. Silence, paired with decisive action, does the opposite. It makes your words heavier because they're rare. When you finally speak, people pay attention, not because you're loud, but because you're deliberate. There's also a hidden discipline here, emotional regulation. Most people speak to release tension. Silence forces you to hold it, to sit inside discomfort without escaping through words. That's not easy. It requires control over your impulses, your ego, your need to be understood. And that's the point. When you master silence, you stop reacting to the world. You start directing it. You don't chase validation. You let it come to you. You don't rush to be seen. You let others reveal themselves first.
Silence is not absence, it's positioning. And once you understand that, every conversation becomes a test, not of who can say more, but of who can remain centered the longest. That's where real dominance lives.
Power always has a dark side, and silence, like any tool, can cut both ways. Used without discipline, it becomes a weapon that harms you as much as others. The first risk, misreading silence. When you assume quiet equals submission, you open yourself to manipulation. Not everyone respects restraint. Some see it as weakness, and they will push, probe, test the boundaries until you react. Reacting is exactly what they want. Second risk, isolation. People need cues to connect. Silence can create distance. It can make allies question your intentions, make partners insecure, make subordinates hesitant. If you don't calibrate, you create fear without influence, and fear alone doesn't build loyalty. Third risk, underestimation. A silent person can be misjudged as harmless until they act, and that shock can backfire. People feel blindsided, resentful, defensive. The very power you cultivate can trigger hostility instead of submission. Fourth risk, internal strain. Silence demands emotional control, constant awareness, and restraint. Without discipline, you carry tension like a weight in your chest. Your body notices before your mind does. Chronic restraint without release can erode confidence, patience, even judgment. Finally, the subtle trap, complacency. Once people fear you, it's tempting to rely solely on that aura. You might stop sharpening other skills, stop building real influence, stop noticing shifts in behavior. Fear can hide weaknesses you fail to address. The lesson is clear. Silence is power, but it is not a guarantee. It's a tool, a lens, a mechanism for influence. And like any tool, the person who wields it carelessly suffers consequences. The world doesn't reward restraint blindly, it rewards mastery. Know when to speak, know when to act, know when to step back and let tension do the work. Because the line between respected and feared, between influence and isolation, is razor thin. And every time you misstep, the cost is higher than most realize. Silence doesn't forgive mistakes, it magnifies them. And understanding that is what separates the quiet manipulators from the ones who quietly get destroyed.
Here's the truth most people will never tell you. Power doesn't come from being loud. It doesn't come from proving yourself. It doesn't come from chasing respect. It comes from restraint, from stillness, from letting the world reveal itself to you while you sit silent, unreadable, controlled. The moment you stop over-explaining, stop reacting, stop seeking approval, that's the moment people start noticing you differently. Not consciously, instinctively. They hesitate around you, they second-guess their words, they underestimate nothing. You don't earn fear by being aggressive. You earn it by being deliberate, by being the person who doesn't give themselves away, by understanding the hidden rules others blindly follow. So watch carefully, notice patterns, test restraint. Because the moment you master silence, you stop being a player in the world's noise. You become the force it orbits around. And once you feel that shift, that quiet gravity, you'll never see human behavior the same way again. If you want to keep uncovering these hidden rules, these subtle mechanisms of influence and power, make sure you subscribe. Not because I ask you to, but because you've already noticed what most people can't see. Remember this one thing: the world doesn't respect words. It respects what cannot be predicted, what cannot be controlled. And silence is the ultimate expression of that power.